Hey guys, welcome to Insight Tennis Tour Stroke Series. My name is Rick Oldroyd. I'm the president and founder of Insight Tennis. I'm also the head pro. Today, obviously, as you can see, we're inside. It's January the 12th and it's about 10 degrees outside. It's actually snowing. So clearly we are unable to get on the courts outdoors, and sometimes it's difficult to get court time indoors as well. So we're going to do a few videos inside. I'll be doing some demonstrations. Clearly I can't hit any balls, but I can at least illustrate what we're talking about, and hopefully that's going to be helpful for you as well. Now, if you've seen some of my videos, you know that I've done a lot of videos, probably 8 or 10 videos probably on the forehand alone. And we talk a lot about this myth of the wrist, this violent rotation at impact and so forth that just doesn't happen. And we talk about the proper wrist and arm rotation that does happen. But we've done that primarily with the forehand, and so I wanted to do a video today about the two-handed backhand. I've put a couple of videos out on the two-handed backhand, one where I talk about the myth of the wrist, and the other one where I talk about the importance of staying connected with your body to increase power on your two-handed backhand. But I want to start putting out some more content on the two-handed backhand because as I believe, there's a lot of misinformation and perhaps some misinterpretation of things out there. And so we want to dispel a couple of those things. One of the things that I see and that I've heard, and it's becoming much more prominent, is this idea of brushing my racket up the back of the ball on the two-handed backhand and essentially lifting my arms straight up in the air. Okay, so I'm taking my racket back and I come into the ball and I'm just going to lift my arms and brush the racket straight up the back of the ball. If you've ever looked at any of the footage of the tour players, you'll see very, very clearly that this just simply does not happen. What we're going to talk about today is why that doesn't happen, and more importantly, why it's so deceiving, why it's misinterpreted, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit about the two-handed backhand. First of all, we'll go over the grip just very quickly. Most right-handed players have a continental grip on their right hand, which looks like this, and a semi-western or some variation of that on their left hand. I'm not going to advocate one or the other. On the left hand, just do whatever feels good to you, but from the front, essentially it's going to look like that, and from the side it looks like that. Now there are some variations in terms, some people hit with a bent arm, some people hit with a straight arm. We're not going to get into that either. What we're going to talk about today is racket path. And I want to specifically address one of the misconceptions that's out there. So, it's widely believed that the pro players take their racket back and come into the ball and just brush their arms up the back of the ball like this. So their racket is essentially traveling in a vertical direction, and their arms are lifting up the back of the ball like this. Okay? This is what we kind of want to talk about and dispel. In my opinion, this absolutely does not happen at the tour level, and you will see this very clearly if you go look at super slow motion video, 350 frames a second. So what does happen? Okay, and why is this so deceiving? Well, first of all the best two-handers in the world take their racket back with their body, and their racket is well above their hands. As you can see here, there's different variations of this, but I advocate this as well. So if I'm hitting the ball this direction, I'm just going to take my hip and shoulder rotation, and this is the position I want my arms and hands in, and I'm going to, a little more shoulder turn than that, but I'm just using this as an example. Now, from here, the racket is going to drop down into position, right? It just releases down into position, and I come back to impact. I'm going to step back so you can see this, and I come back to impact. I make contact about here, sometimes with a straight arm, sometimes with a bent arm, but essentially it's here and it's out in front of my right foot, okay? Now from this position, instead of brushing up in a vertical motion, which would be essentially impossible for me to do, from the standpoint of laws of physics. What the pros do, and you'll see this very, very clearly, is they come to impact and they extend out towards their target. Okay? Notice that my racket is traveling out towards my target. And the reason why it's so deceptive and why it looks like it's a vertical swing is because their arms have extended out towards the target, but they can only go so far this direction. So if their arm is straight or even slightly bent, it starts to rotate because it can't go forward any further, and it looks like it's going up because it has to go up to finish over their right shoulder, and it can't go out any longer or any further. And that's why it's so deceptive, because instead of this motion, they swing out through the ball, but it looks like they're hitting. If you notice, this is a normal swing, not normal speed, but you know, faster, right? And it looks like I'm lifting my arms, but I'm not, okay? So when I'm coming into that ball, here's what I'm doing. I'm coming in, I rotate back to impact, and I'm allowing my racket now to travel out towards my target. If you take a picture of Djokovic or Andre Agassi or Andy Murray or any of them, this is what you're going to see. At impact, you're going to see this, and after impact, their racket has traveled like this, and it started to rotate a little bit, and their arm is either straight or slightly bent. But if you took a picture, this is what you'd see. You see their racket in this position here. Now it continues to rotate over like this, and they come around and finish up on their right shoulder, okay? But the idea is, and the reason why this is so deceiving, is because when they extend their arms out towards the target, they can only go out so far, and then they have to go up because of the laws of physics. And that's the deception. That's what we see. So instead of this idea, lifting my arms up the back of the ball in a vertical motion, what I want to feel is that I'm allowing my racket to travel from a lower position to a higher position out towards my target. Notice that I'm allowing my hands are nice and soft and relaxed on the racket so that I can create that racket head speed. I rotate back to impact, and I allow my racket to travel out through the ball. Now, if you took a picture of the best two-handers in the world after impact, this is what you're going to see. Their arms are here. They're not up in the air. They're here. And long after impact, they continue to travel and rotate and finish up over their right shoulder. Okay? David Nalbandian is another one that I would put in the top 2 or 3 of the best backhands ever in the history of the game. Andre Agassi. If you go and look at super slow motion video of these guys, this is exactly what you're going to see. And also Djokovic. He takes his racket like this, he drops it into position, he comes in, he makes contact with the ball here, but he extends out towards his target. His arm continues out towards his target until it can't go out anymore and it has to rotate and come up. And that's what we see. So it's here, extending and finishing, comes around with his left leg to make sure that his trunk rotation was in fact complete. So the things that you want to take away from this is get away. If you want to hit the ball with more pace, more weight of shot, and have a penetrating offensive two-handed backhand, you got to get away from this brushing idea up the back of the ball. Now, am I saying that there isn't low to high movement? No, of course there is low to high, and that's what imparts the spin, especially when you multiply it by 100-mile-an-hour racket head speed. But this concept that's out there of lifting my arms and brushing up the back of the ball, in my opinion, absolutely is going to get you into trouble. It simply does not happen at the tour level, and if you think about it from the laws of physics, it's a glancing blow. You're brushing up the ball, and yes, you can hit it over the net like that, but there's simply nothing on that ball. A good player is going to come in and attack that and pound it into the corners and take control of the point or win the point outright.